There are principled people who identify as on the left who have been sending a warning out for a while now. Bill Maher is one of them, and I have a lot of respect for him. He pushes back on the Democrats with ease, with no problem. Now, of course, I've criticized him heavily over his elitist comments about a recession, but we'll leave that somewhere else. The point is, Bill Maher has been repeatedly criticizing Democrats for quite some time, and they already call him alt-right, and they criticize him for it, but Bill Maher is correct. Look at this. Are we going to do it again? Bill Maher warns Democrats against attacks on Brett Kavanaugh. Now, I talked about this in a main channel segment briefly, and I'm only starting with this lightly to move into the bigger story. Matt Gorman. After Kavanaugh, Republicans are looking forward to another Supreme Court fight, and this is round 2. This is the second act of what Bill Maher was saying. Let me read this quote. He says, in the 2018 election, it looks like Democrats could have won Indiana, North Dakota, Florida, Missouri, and West Virginia. All 5 were home to Democratic senators running for election in tight races. Joe Manchin, the only one that voted for Kavanaugh, won. The other 4 lost, Maher said, describing the Kavanaugh effect on this. They have polling on this. People did not like going after a guy for what he did in high school. It looked bad. And now Democrats are talking about impeaching him again? Yep. And here's the latest. This is an opinion piece for Matt Gorman, but he brings up a really important point. Republicans of all different stripes, many who might disagree, are unified in this fight. And he talks about how Republicans know that a vote for a Republican is a vote for a conservative judge who will interpret the Constitution the way it's intended to be interpreted, the way they believe it should be interpreted. And that means when the left goes after a conservative-leaning judge, every different kind of conservative is going to rally behind this and vote in favor of it. It's a unifying effect. That's the easiest way to put it. And Bill Maher sees it. And he's wiggling his arms in the air saying, Democrats, listen, but they don't care. And I can't tell you why, but boy, do I make a lot of videos talking about how Democrats don't seem to understand what they're doing wrong. I just don't know. I just don't get it. You'd think after the first few times, they'd stop and say, maybe we should do something else. But what's the old saying that the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? Like constantly putting your hand in fire, thinking it won't burn at some point. That seems to be what they're doing. And what's strange to me is the media tells them, okay, as much as the media supports the absurdity in many instances, like the leftist digital outlets, a lot of people in media and a lot of media outlets are publishing stories, people like me and Bill Maher saying, stop, you are giving this all away. You are unifying conservatives behind Trump. And the polling data shows, the Economist data I love sourcing, shows that all Republicans coming together, yes, because they just want the judges. The laws will come later, but the judges are the important factor. So let's do this. Let's read this story from Fox News about Republicans looking forward, being excited to the Kavanaugh fight. Listen, when they came out and started going after Kavanaugh, I assure you a lot of high-level Republicans started laughing and high-fiving each other, saying, yes, this is what we needed to rally the base and win 2020. The story says, with Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh now back in the news, I'm feeling a pang of deja vu from last fall. The New York Times recently published a grossly misleading excerpt of a book about Kavanaugh by 2 of the newspaper's reporters. The excerpt contained a new, unsubstantiated claim. It actually wasn't new at all. It was just ignored because it's unsubstantiated, but they brought it up. They say, the Times originally left out crucial information about the unsubstantiated claim, including that the alleged victim, who had not spoken with the authors of the book, repeatedly told friends she had no recollection of Kavanaugh doing what he was accused of doing. The Times subsequently revised. We all know the story. At least I hope you do. I don't want to rehash a lot of the old stuff. Let's get to the crux of the argument. He says, judges, unlike any other issue, unite Republicans of all stripes. MAGA hat wearers, neocons, country clubbers, and every other label you can think of. There's simply no other issue like it. We relish judicial confirmation battles. We all want conservatives on the bench, and we'll all fight like hell to get them there. The reason behind this isn't a mystery. For decades, Republicans have always drawn a straight line between elections and judges. We know that a vote for a Republican president or senator is a vote for a lifetime of lifetime appointments for judges who will interpret the Constitution as it was intended. The political calculus was battle-born from years of seeing liberal judges legislate from the bench and high-powered Democratic opposition to qualified Republican judicial nominees like Robert Bork and Miguel Estrada. However, the years we spent in the judicial desert fashioned a political weapon that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell used with skill. And I will have no problem criticizing Mitch McConnell over holding up Obama's appointee, but now you understand. They are playing a different game. You know, in my main channel, I basically entertain the hypothesis that Trump was playing 4D chess. You know, that's the accusation. They say that Trump knows what he's doing. He's playing the media. He's manipulating. I don't want to go that far. But what I will say is, it's not a conspiracy. Cards are being dealt from a deck. And the Democrats picked up their hand and the Republicans picked up their hand. And the Republicans, whether you want to call it ethical, immoral, whatever you want to call it, are playing more skillfully. I mean, if you want to criticize certain things like Mitch McConnell holding up legislation, etc., they're playing their hand the way that it's meant to be played. There's political posturing, there's pandering, there's political gamesmanship, things I really, really detest going on. But we know why. We know why, we can see it, and they'll even say it outright. Here's an article from a conservative saying, yup, we're going to play this game to get more judges. And so I sit here wondering, what needs to be said, and by who, to get the Democrats to understand this? You have Bill Maher saying it, you have me saying it, you have other principled opposition to what they're doing with Kavanaugh, but they don't listen. The Kavanaugh effect was real. Joe Manchin, he stayed in, he won, and, Bill Maher was highlighting this, all these others lost. He goes on to say, it's a fact the Supreme Court and judges played a major role in juicing GOP turnout in 2016. According to exit polls, almost 60% of Trump voters listed judicial appointments as the most important factor in their vote. It's not hard to imagine many of those voters, including traditional Republicans who strongly disliked Trump, yet wanted a conservative judiciary. Trump, to his credit, understood the importance of the issue, and from the start made credible promises on the types of judges he'd appoint. I agree. I completely agree. I've talked to conservatives in the past. I remember being a teenager back, it was, I think, Bush's re-election. And I was told explicitly by a conservative family friend, he's like, I don't know or care about what Bush is doing. He's just going to get, more conservative judges. That's all that matters. And that's what I heard that when I was a teenager, and I was like, it didn't mean much to me. I was like, oh, whatever. Just another reason to vote for a Republican, right? But it's different. Because the Republicans typically campaign on they're the social issues Democrats and Republicans often focus on. Abortion, taxes, etc. Welfare, social programs, foreign war, government spending. But one thing that's not often in the forefront, or I should say, it's not the subject of most debates. It's whether or not they would appoint a conservative judge. Because the Republican's going to say, I'll do it. The Democrats say, I'll appoint a liberal, and they don't really argue about it. We get it. The debate comes during the voting process, the confirmation process. He writes, what's mystifying to me is Democrats have not duplicated this tactic. They have not drawn that same straight line between a Democratic president or Senate and its effects on the Supreme Court or the federal judiciary writ large. In the first 3 debates, judges were barely mentioned. Aside from abortion, they don't connect their priorities to high court rulings. And that's fascinating to me because think about it. You can vote for the president. You can vote for your representative in Congress. You don't vote for a judge. Judges are appointed. They're appointed by the executive branch, confirmed by the legislative branch. And I think the American system is very, very brilliant. I think it's not perfect, but wow, is it great. The checks and balances, the 3 different branches, it's very, very clever. It's very smart. Republicans get it. A vote for a Republican is a vote for a Republican judge in the long run. And Trump has been stacking the courts, over 150 appointments. That's my understanding. And there have been some people on the left talking about this, but for the most part, no. They're distracted by Trump's boorish behavior. So when it comes to Kavanaugh and the accusations, the Republicans are laughing all the way to the bench. Bill Maher is saying it. And you know what? If you're not going to listen to Bill Maher, I don't know who you're going to listen to. But you know what? All of this comes down to one simple thing. I think you get the point on what he's trying to say. He ends by saying, there is little you can be assured of in Washington, but if a vacancy were to arrive before Election Day, I can promise you 3 things. Republicans led by McConnell would move heaven and earth to confirm a new justice. Second, with both armies scarred from the Kavanaugh nomination, this war would be bloodier and harsher than the last. And third, Republicans of all stripes would be ready for a hell of a fight. I don't know. The point I'm going to make, the last thing is, you get it. You've heard me say it before if you watch my content. There's a civil war on the left. And the progressives are not playing the same game as the moderates. So when Bill Maher comes out shocked at what the Democrats are doing, well, Bill Maher, it's because you've lost half of your base. There's half that are now obsessed with identitarianism and far-left policies and pie-in-the-sky, policies and open borders and globalism and things that Americans don't want. And you represent those Americans who are still left on the Democratic side. Unfortunately for you, Bill, there's also a lot of people who used to be Democrats who have left you in the other direction, going and joining Trump and saying enough. There you go. The more they try and rile up the base with fights. Now, listen, it's not just about the courts. It's not just about Republicans knowing they need judges. It's about the lies. They have single-handedly combined two powerful issues. Republicans want judges and the culture war, insanity, false accusations, all into one, riling up anybody who would be opposed to this and saying, enough. You are helping them. Bill Maher gets it. It's too bad, though. Stick around. They mention New York Times. The next segment, we'll be talking about the New York Times getting ripped to shreds, having a very, very bad past couple of months. I'll see you in a few minutes.